Hello, Pisces. If you are listening to these words, there is a chance your heart has been waiting for a very long time. A quiet kind of waiting. One no one really sees, but long enough to make you wonder whether you are waiting for the right person or simply holding on to a feeling that has slowly gone silent. Some connections do not disappear. They grow quiet right when we are the most tired. And there are moments that feel almost strange, when just as you are about to let go, everything begins to move again. This is not a story that makes promises. It is a whisper for those who have loved with sincerity and still manage to keep their self-respect. If you have ever felt exhausted from waiting, if you have ever doubted your own intuition, stay here a little longer, because what you are going through is not meaningless. It is the beginning of a very different journey. One where your emotions are finally heard and your heart is gently placed back where it belongs. And from that very place, this story begins. Pisces is standing in a very quiet space. So quiet that sometimes the silence itself feels heavier than the loudest days. Not because you no longer feel, but because you have been feeling too much for far too long. Waiting has never frightened you. Pisces knows how to wait. You know how to listen. You know how to place yourself after the emotions of others. But there comes a point where every heart grows tired. That point is when waiting is no longer supported by clarity. You have told yourself many times to be just a little more patient. Maybe they are busy. Maybe the timing is not right. Maybe the silence is only temporary. You have spoken to yourself with kindness. The same kindness you offer everyone else. This time, you offered it to yourself. And as the days passed, the silence stopped being just the space between two messages. It became a wide, inner space where you sat alone with yourself, asking questions you once tried to avoid. You wondered where you stand in their heart, not to demand a special place, but simply to know whether you truly exist in their thoughts. You wondered whether what you felt was real or just the familiar softness of a Pisces who sees life through the lens of hope. You replayed the small details, an old sentence, a fleeting look, a feeling that was vague, yet undeniably real when your paths first connected. And the more you looked, the clearer it became. What exhausted you was not love. It was uncertainty. Pisces does not seek drama. You do not need grand promises. You do not need loud declarations. What you need is clarity, just enough for your heart to rest. A simple sentence would be enough. A signal that feels real would be enough. So you no longer have to guess, no longer have to interpret, no longer have to stand between hope and letting go, unsure which direction to choose. There are days when life feels normal. You work, you smile, you care for those around you. But when night falls, when all sound settles, you realize you carried that, waiting with you all day. It is not loud, it does not explode. It simply rests there, deep, quiet, like cool water that feels calm, yet cold, touching your heart and making it ache just a little. And the most beautiful and most fragile thing about Pisces is this. Even when tired, you are not bitter. Even when doubtful, you do not lose compassion. You do not turn someone else's silence into judgment. You quietly question. You gently adjust. You learn how to protect your heart without harming anyone. That is not weakness. That is a rare kind of maturity, a maturity that does not need hardness to exist. Right now, what matters is not when an answer will come. What matters is that you are learning to listen to yourself. You are realizing your heart deserves clarity. It deserves true presence. It deserves a connection that does not make you doubt your own worth. And as you begin to touch that truth, something very gentle starts to shift within you, as if you are no longer standing still, waiting, but slowly walking toward the light of understanding, a place where every emotion is seen fairly, including your own. And it is in that very moment, when you stop forcing yourself to understand on behalf of someone else, that a quiet truth begins to surface, not through clear explanations, not through final answers, but through a familiar, delicate knowing that Pisces understands so well. A knowing that some things are happening beyond your sight, yet still within the flow of sincerity. They never truly left you in the way you once believed. They did not disappear from your world. They simply stepped back from the spotlight. Some people carry so much weight inside that they do not know how to move forward into a new connection without fearing they might damage it. And instead of speaking, they choose silence. Not because they do not care, but because they do not yet know how to care fully without bringing old, broken pieces with them. They may have just stepped out of a very heavy chapter, a chapter where every decision required time to heal, a chapter that asked them to relearn how to stand steady, how to trust themselves again before trusting anyone else. In those quiet spaces, they think of you often, but their thoughts are not impulsive. They carry the caution of someone who has made mistakes before, who has lost before, who fears causing pain one more time. They may be asking themselves questions very similar to yours. Am I ready yet? Can I open my heart without carrying old darkness with me? Am I capable of being fully present for someone as gentle as Pisces without making them wait in silence? And when those questions have no answers yet, they choose stillness. Not to escape, but to avoid turning something meaningful into something half-lived. During this time, their life continues. Family, responsibilities, small things that must be handled one by one. There are evenings when they sit alone, staring at their phone, thinking about sending a message, then stopping themselves. Not because they do not want to reach out, but because they want to speak only when they are clear, steady, and real. A silence born from responsibility can sometimes weigh far heavier than a promise spoken too quickly. And if you listen closely, you will sense that this silence does not carry indifference. It is not cold, not dry, not sharp. It holds a very human hesitation, honest, vulnerable, a delay born from the desire to do what is right, not from the intention to walk away. Some connections do not fade in silence. They are being held gently, so they do not break before they have the chance to fully form. Pisces, you do not fail to see this because your intuition is weak. You miss it because you are standing too close to your own emotions. And when those emotions settle, when you stop blaming yourself for waiting, stop questioning whether you are worthy, you begin to feel a very thin thread still. There, not pulling, not holding you back, simply existing like an appointment never spoken aloud. This is not fate rejecting you. This is a season where two people are learning not to place old wounds onto a new connection. And as you begin to view that silence with softer eyes, not only toward them, but toward yourself, something gentle starts to happen. As if the water within you is becoming clearer, deeper, ready to flow forward again, without carrying the heavy weight of doubt. And from that fragile thread, the story begins to reveal a deeper layer. Not every connection is born in a perfect moment. Some meetings arrive with the right person, but not at the right time. They carry a very real spark, a clear sense of compatibility, an impression deep enough that it does not fade easily. Yet, like early morning light entering a cluttered room, it cannot brighten everything all at once. It only shows us that this place has potential, that there is life here, and that something exists worth returning to. When two people first meet, that feeling is not imagined. There is a quick recognition, natural, as if two streams briefly touch and instantly know they flow in the same direction. But soon after that moment, reality steps in. Unfinished endings the other person has not yet closed, old stories that have not fully settled, responsibilities that have not been laid down. And so the current slows. Not because it has lost its way, but because it needs time to remain clear. Pisces feels this shift deeply. You sense the distance that appears after the initial spark. You notice the rhythm is no longer as fluid as it once was. And in your uniquely sensitive way, you begin to wonder whether you have been left behind. Whether this silence means you have stepped into a story that was never meant for you. But the truth is far gentler than what fear whispers. This connection did not pause due to a lack of feeling. It slowed because one person could not move forward while still standing between two shores. Some people cannot open a new door before the old one is fully closed, and rather than pulling you into something half-lived, they instinctively choose to stop. That choice does not make waiting easier for Pisces, but it carries an important message. You were not abandoned. You simply met at a moment when life had not yet rearranged itself for both of you. During this pause, your emotions grow more complex. You miss, you understand, you hurt, and still, you do not want to blame anyone. You stand between compassion and loneliness, trying not to harden your heart. And this quiet effort is shaping you in a profound way. It teaches you that not every delay is negative. Some pauses exist so that two people do not hurt each other before they are steady enough to meet. If you look back now, you will see that even within this stillness, the connection never lost its weight. It simply moved from the surface into a deeper place, a place where emotions are tested, where patience is illuminated, and where your worth becomes clearer, not through the eyes of someone else, but within your own heart, where you slowly realize that you deserve a love born from wholeness, even if it needs more time to take shape. And while you are learning to look back at yourself with more gentleness, somewhere else within this same current, they are not standing still either. There are thoughts moving through them slowly, deeply, not loud, like sudden emotion, but heavy, like the kind of questions that only appear when someone truly cares. They think of you not in passing moments, but in the quietest hours, when there is no one left to distract them, when all defenses soften and truth begins to speak. They ask themselves if they are truly ready, not ready to like someone new, but ready to be fully present, ready not to place old broken pieces into the gentle hands of Pisces, ready to step into a connection they know will touch very deep, very real, and therefore ask for real responsibility. Some people are not afraid of love. They are afraid of causing harm, and that fear makes them pause longer, think more carefully, move more slowly. In those thoughts, you are not a faint image. You appear clearly, distinctly, with your empathy, your sensitivity, the way you move through the world with a heart that is soft, yet not weak. That is what makes them hesitate, because they know if they step forward before they are steady, you would be the one to carry the cost. And they do not want that. They do not want to leave you confused. They do not want to turn something beautiful into a wound that lingers. They also wonder if returning, if speaking, if moving forward, they could truly be serious. Serious not only in words, but in action, in consistent presence, in the ability to stay when things are no longer easy. These questions do not offer quick answers. They require time to be felt, to be tested, to be heard from deep within. And so they move slowly, not because you are not important, but because you are too important to be approached carelessly. Within this slowness, there is so much silence you never see. Evenings where they sit alone, reviewing the path they have walked. Moments where they realize that if anyone deserves a better version of them, it is the kind of energy Pisces carries. And because of that realization, they hesitate even more to show up while still unfinished. This does not make your waiting disappear instantly, but it changes what that waiting means. It no longer feels like abandonment. It becomes the sense of two people walking separate paths so they do not lose each other. Some choices in life are not made by the strongest emotions, but by the deepest caution. And the choice that involves you belongs to that kind. Pisces, if you are listening this far, know that this caution is not empty hesitation. It is the sign of someone trying to do the right thing, even when that means longer silence and harder conversations with themselves. And while they are doing that, you are growing too, in how you see your own worth. You are no longer standing in a place waiting to be chosen. You are standing as someone who knows they deserve wholeness. As these two currents continue side by side, something very gentle begins to form. A feeling that this delay is not meaningless, that it is preparing for a moment when, if you meet again, everything will feel different. No half measures, no doubt, only full presence. Two people who have already faced the hardest questions within themselves, now able to stand there, looking at one another with clearer eyes than ever before. And then something very unusual happens. Not an explosive moment, not a moment that tightens your chest or sends hope rushing back all at once. It is the moment you become so tired that you no longer try to understand anymore. Not because you stopped caring, but because you have cared enough. Pisces begins to loosen their grip on waiting itself, not in bitterness, but in a quiet kind of acceptance. You stop checking your phone with vague expectation. You stop wondering whether today will be the day they think of you. You stop building imagined futures just to keep yourself inside a story that has not yet taken shape. This letting go does not feel like failure. It feels like setting down a suitcase you have carried for too long, realizing your shoulders need rest. You begin returning to the rhythm of your own life, not to prove anything, simply to breathe more easily. You bring your attention back to the things you once overlooked. A slow morning, a conversation where you do not hide how you feel, a moment of peace that does not need to be shared to be meaningful. And within this new sense of calm, something subtle takes place. The shift in energy arrives quietly, not with noise, but with a lightness in the heart. When you stop waiting, stop holding on, you also stop sending out signals of lack. You return to your most natural state, whole, complete, not needing anyone's confirmation. And it is right then that the fragile thread, once silent, begins to tremble. The contact comes differently than you once imagined. Not a long explanation, not a carefully prepared apology. Just something real, human. A simple sentence, without decoration, without promises. I want to see you. Nothing more needs to wrap around those words. There is no need. Because when someone has passed through enough silence, they understand that the simplest words often carry the most truth. That moment may cause you to pause, not because you are surprised, but because you realize you are no longer standing where you once were. Your heart no longer rushes forward the way it used to. It listens. It feels. It checks where the invitation is coming from, what it carries, and whether it is safe enough to step toward. And this is the greatest shift of all. You no longer respond from fear of loss, but from a sense of self, respect rebuilt in silence. There is something quietly beautiful here, not because they return, but because you have changed. You no longer need answers to know your worth. You no longer need their presence to feel chosen. And when you stand firmly in that place, any reunion, if it happens, no longer carries pressure. It becomes a free invitation, a space where two people may come together not from fear of losing, but from genuine desire. Pisces, this is when you understand that letting go is not the same as giving up on love. Letting go is returning power to yourself. It is releasing control over outcomes so truth has room to appear. And when truth arrives, it does not knock loudly. It only requires you to be quiet enough to hear it. If you step forward, you do so with an open heart, but not an empty one. If you choose to pause, you pause with self-respect and tact. No matter the choice, you no longer lose yourself within it. And from this very quiet place, where you have learned to stand beside your emotions without fighting them, the story continues to flow. Not in urgency, not by force, just a natural continuation, where everything that happens has its rightful place, and where your heart is finally set into the rhythm of peace. And when two people meet again from a place very different from where they first began, the first thing you notice is not an emotional surge, but a sense of calm. There is no longer the need to prove anything, no urgency to label what this is, only a slower breath, a steadier rhythm, as if both of you have learned how to walk at the same pace. You are not returning to the past. You are not rushing forward either. You are standing in the present, grounded enough to feel each moment as it unfolds. This beginning is not built on rushed promises. It is shaped by conscious choices, choosing to speak when clarity is present, choosing to meet when readiness exists, choosing to stay only when you know you can be fully present. There is a quiet beauty in the way you approach each other now. Few words, no need for over-explanation. Everything is allowed to let time do its work, the way water smooths stone, without urgency, yet always moving forward. You begin to understand that maturity does not mean feeling less. It means placing feelings where they belong. You can still be moved without losing yourself. You can still hope without handing control to fear. And so can they. They no longer arrive with the same hesitation as before. They come with clearer presence. Not perfect, but real. Not many promises. Just enough for you to feel safe, placing your heart down. This connection does not live on dramatic highs. It lives in ordinary moments. A conversation without defenses, listening without preparing a response. A silence that no longer means distance, but space where each person is free to be themselves. And within these simple moments, something lasting begins to form. Not loud, not showy, but deep enough to endure. Pisces. This is when you understand that moving slowly does not mean moving backward. Moving slowly means you value what you are building enough not to break it through impatience. You have moved through the phase of self-doubt, self-blame, silent waiting. Now you walk with lighter steps, but firmer ground beneath you. You no longer need to guess someone else's feelings to feel safe. You set boundaries not to create distance, but to protect what is growing naturally within you. There are days when everything moves slowly, almost unchanged. And there are days when you realize you have traveled far from where you once stood. Not because someone pulled you forward, but because you chose not to stand still anymore. You choose clarity over confusion, presence over expectation. You choose to build something that can stand the test of time rather than chasing fleeting emotion. And within that choice lives a beautiful message for anyone listening. That love does not need urgency to be real. That a connection built on awareness and choice endures far longer than sparks that come and go. That you do not need to trade your peace to keep someone close. When two people are ready, life naturally finds a way to move them toward each other. As the story continues to flow, it is no longer about what happens next, but the feeling of walking the same path together. A path with enough light to truly see one another. No need to run, no need to stop, just to walk, slowly, steadily, trusting that each step is bringing you closer to something real, something healing, something worthy of a heart that has learned how to love without losing itself. And when you stand still long enough within this new rhythm, a gentle truth begins to settle inside your heart. You were never wrong for doubting. Doubt is not a betrayal of emotion. It is the heart protecting itself after long stretches of silence. And you were never wrong for hoping. Hope is part of Pisces' nature, the ability to see light even when nothing has fully taken shape yet. These two have never been opposites. They are simply two different rhythms of the same heart that knows how to love deeply. There were moments when you blamed yourself for waiting, and other moments when you blamed yourself for hoping. But if you look back now with softer eyes, you will see that every response you had came from sincerity. You were never playing emotional games. You never loved halfway. You loved in the only way you knew how, with kindness, with trust. And that was never wrong. If they return, it is not because you tried long enough or waited patiently enough. They return because some people pass through our lives and leave an imprint that cannot be erased. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep enough to remain in thought in the quietest moments. You are that kind of imprint. You do not need constant presence to be remembered. Simply being yourself has always been enough. This delay did not take anything from you. It did not make you less. It did not require you to try harder to be worthy. Instead, it gave you a rare opportunity to see your value without needing external validation. You learned that you do not need to be chosen to be meaningful. You already are, even on the days no one calls your name. And most importantly, everything is unfolding at the right time, not according to your original expectations, but according to both people's true capacity to be present. Some connections break if they arrive too early. Some people hurt each other when they meet before they are steady. This period, as difficult, exhausting, and filled with questions as it may have been, is precisely what allowed both of you to step closer to a more honest version of yourselves. Pisces, you do not need to rush to believe in a beautiful ending. You only need to trust that this journey has taught you how to love without abandoning yourself. You have learned how to wait without losing your worth, how to hope without handing all, your power to fear, how to let go when needed, and open your heart only when it feels safe. These lessons will stay with you, no matter how this story continues. If you choose to move forward, do so with a heart that is open, yet steady. If you choose to pause, pause in self-respect. There is no wrong choice when it is made from clarity and compassion. The most beautiful part is that you no longer need to force yourself to believe in something just to feel less alone. You are already whole in your own presence. And as this story gently comes to rest in a slower breath, a quiet sense of peace remains. The feeling that you have walked through a journey that was not easy, but necessary. That you have grown in how you love, how you wait, and how you let go. Sometimes, real love does not need to be proven by speed or promises. It simply needs enough time for two people to dare step toward one another with all the sincerity they carry. And you, Pisces, are worthy of a love like that.